What we have done for ourselves alone dies with us. What we have done for others and the world remains and is immortal. The beginning of the 19th century saw the rise in India of two great men. One of them, Maharaja Ranjit Singh, who used the sword to carve out a kingdom for himself, and the other, Ram Mohan Roy, wielded a powerful pen which got him the title of Raja. If, in spite of jealousy, hatred, brutality, avarice, and numerous such other evils prevalent all around, the world is still surviving, it is primarily due to noble souls like Sardar Dyal Singh Majithia, who was a true descendant of Ranjit Singh in flesh and Raja Ram Mohan Roy in spirit. Gifted with enviable humanism, this great saint was a gem among men. His magnanimity, munificence, and liberalism were proverbial. Sardar Dyal Singh belonged to a family of distinguished Sikh chief. Only son of Sardar Lehna Singh, he was preeminently great by reason of qualities of head and heart. Born in 1848, he was a symbol of zeal in service of humanity. The fact that he lost his parents at a tender age and grew up among strangers did not apparently affect his geniality and amiable disposition. Whosoever met Sardar Dyal Singh was all praise for this tall, graceful figure of clear-cut features and wheatish complexion with delicate and winsome manners. He got his education at Christian Mission School, Amritsar. His school teachers instilled in him a sense of inquiry and a love of knowledge about everything around him. He had a thorough knowledge of the Gita, the Quran, and the Bible. He also received training in games, riding, and athletic activities. He was a scholar, a great scholar, lover of music and arts, not only a great patriot, but also a great philanthropist, a very generous man who lived like a prince but never disappointed any man who stood in need of advice or help. A voracious reader, his personal collection consisted of more than 1,000 books. He was a polished conversationalist. During his sojourn in England and his travels in Europe, he became a great admirer of learning and sciences. He was aristocrat in every sense of the word, and his thoughts were certainly ages ahead of his time. With a rational and scientific outlook, he believed it was essential to awaken Indians to get rid of the phantoms of communalism, casteism, and hatred. His public spirit, patriotic ideals, liberal and enlightened principles, and far-sightedness made him a leader of masses. He realized the importance of the press in the life of a nation. For expression of the opinion of the large masses of Indian people, there was no vehicle. It was Dyal Singh who filled the vacuum by starting the weekly newspaper, The Tribune, the very first issue of which came out on 2nd Feb 1881 with the aim to advocate the cause of mute public. Dyal Singh wished to mold the character of young men of India on nationalist and secular lines, and it was his firm belief that only a sound education could dispel ignorance and counter reactionary trends. It was the efforts of Dyal Singh and his friends which resulted in the setting of the Punjab University on the model of London University and at par with the Calcutta, Bombay, and Madras University. Dyal Singh, the first founder chairman of the board of directors of the first Indian bank in Punjab, which now exists as Punjab National Bank, was keen that instead of spending his assets on building temples and dharamshalas, this should be put to the best use for the spread of education. In his last will and testament, Sardar Dyal Singh bequeathed most of his movable and immovable property, inherited or acquired, to a number of beneficiaries, and most importantly, to the three trusts. The first one set up to run the Tribune, the second one to set up an arts college in Lahore, and the third one to establish a public library in Lahore. Fragrance of flowers spreads only in the direction of the wind, but the goodness of a person spreads in all the directions. Sardar Dyal Singh Majithia's name lives and will continue to live on in the loving heart of posterity. Posterity will remember him as one who gave his everything without stint or grudge to his country. His is indeed a name that will remain a shining example and a beacon light to his countrymen for all time to come.